Welcome back, everyone, to a new spoiler review of a TV episode here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Tilburg. Today, I'm very happy and pleasantly surprised. I'm talking more Invincible here on my YouTube channel, as after debuting at San Diego Comic-Con and announcing first of all, the trailer for season 2 and having a panel itself, creator Robert Kirkman announced that there was a special episode of Invincible that just came out on Amazon Prime titled Adam Eve, a prequel to season 1 of Invincible. So if you're new to the channel, I'm going to be breaking down this whole episode from the beginning to end, what are my thoughts, how I think this will impact the upcoming seasons of Invincible. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. If you're new to the channel, these types of TV show reviews, movie reviews, box office breakdown show weekly and weekly movie rankings. So please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. Comment down below. First of all, this is going to be a full spoiler review of this episode. So tell me, how much do you love season 1 of Invincible? Did you think this episode was necessary? Did you not like it? Are you really happy about the episode? Let me know in the comment section down below. And also please like the video, the thumbs up button if you're new to the channel. So here is my spoiler breakdown of Invincible Adam Eve, which is the special episode. The episode was 55 minutes long. Again, this could be full spoilers. So even if you haven't seen Invincible season 1, anything Invincible, including this episode, will be spoilers. So please know that before we get into this video. So as I said, this is a prequel episode based on Adam Eve, basically as like a 12-year-old. She was obviously voiced by Jillian Jacobs on season 1 of Invincible. And we saw in season 1, she kind of had an up and down, very much down relationship with her parents. She had an very much a up and down romance with Rex Splode in season 1. And she was very much a loner before Mark kind of came along and all those different things. Now, if you're also new to the channel, I've already done I think episode by episode reviews of Invincible back when it came out 2 years ago on the channel. This is one of my favorite shows of all time, so I'm very passionate about this show, so I'm very excited to be talking about more Invincible. So as we kick off the episode with a very heartbreaking beginning to the episode, where we actually do get to see the Guardians of the Globe, the A-Team Guardians of the Globe, beating up these people in this hospital-type scientific facility. And we learn that one of these moms, who clearly has superpowers or whatever, is about to be pregnant, about to have her baby, and she's being watched by Brandy Worth, voiced by Stephen Root. And we learn that this is someone that Stephen Root's character, Brandy Worth, who is a not a neurosurgeon, but someone scientific in the superhuman element of the U.S. government, was tasked by Lance Reddick's character Erickson, who is overseeing these, trying to make these basically kind of not machines but killing bots, while they're superheroes and people, just make them into killing machines. Basically, it was Erickson's goal. So obviously once Brandy learns this, he started to care about this mother, and the mother dies right before she gives birth to, as we know, as Adam Eve. And we learn a huge element of the show, which of Adam Eve's character, which is Brandy Worth himself does the pregnancy himself, even though the mother passed away. And we also learn that Eve's parents that we saw in season 1, and obviously that we see in this episode, were not her real parents. They, at the same day at this hospital, they also lost one of their actual kids in birth. And we see that Eve's I guess, mom and dad were very emotional. And then this doctor comes in and she says, your daughter actually made it. She survived. So again, that's another big thing character-wise, which is Eve is not the true daughter of those two parents, which I think adds a lot into the show. So now another thing that the show really goes through this episode, which is exploring her powers. You can just think about the chemicals. And I think this show is so special because especially with the origin story now of Adam Eve, but also the origin story, of course, Mark Grayson, Invincible, is just the sense of wonder and uniqueness to the powers. These are not mind-blowing different powers that you haven't seen in other superhero films, but for some reason, this show does a great job of making you as an audience member want to have these powers, want you to think about, if you were this person, how do you be using these powers? And I think a lot of superhero projects do struggle with that, but this show, especially this episode with Adam Eve, really puts you in her shoes of how you would use powers, changing her textbook from a math textbook to glass, changing a cream cheese and olive sandwich into a cheeseburger. There's so much wonder to it with Adam Eve's powers that I just really enjoyed in this episode. So she grows up. Her parents think that she's basically really her dad, but it comes out to be that it's both parents, that she's a weirdo, and that being a weirdo or being different is a bad thing. And I think this episode had so much emotion to it because, well, yes, not everyone is not anyone in our time is a superhero. People and everyone can relate to being in the situation. It feels like a real situation where maybe a parent's child is different, smarter than other kids, acts in different ways. And because this child acts in different ways, their parents then respond to thinking they're weird, different, and that being a negative. And I think it's a very relatable storyline, which I think is why the episode really popped to me, was this very relatable, personal story that this episode took upon. As we keep going on, Brandy Worth shows back up, and he's basically tells Eve when Eve is 12 years old. Eve has a friend also. Sorry, before we get to Brandy Worth again, Eve has a friend named, I think it's Val, played by Madison Calderon. I could be wrong about who plays the friend. I think the friend was called Val, but I could be wrong again. I'll keep looking as I'm talking. Actually, that's the only thing I can see. So, and she finally has a friend, and then she shows her powers, and obviously the friend's very mortified by it and doesn't want to be friends with her anymore. So this then leads to her wanting to use her powers for good. This finally gives her a purpose in life, because she goes to a school where it feels like there's no future for herself, and this is finally seeing herself as a future. Brandy Worth shows back up. He's basically like, don't. He actually looks like a creep, which I thought was a good joke in the show. But he was basically like, don't use your powers in public. The government thinks you're dead. They think, I'm dead too. Don't use your powers. And obviously then she uses her powers, and the whatever thing sees her powers. So then the government acts on it. This one crazy doctor makes these 3 kids, and it's disgusting. Like, skin is moving up and down their body. It's gross to look at. It's absolutely disgusting. And obviously one of them is voiced phase 2, played by Jacob Tremblay. And then this sets up a 20-minute action scene between these 3 kids and Eve. And this is where we get it's really brutal action. Eve doesn't just she gets her ass kicked, but she also kicks their ass. There's a lot of good stuff of being kind of the first time in a real superhero fight. But the ultimate ends up that the other 2 kids are obviously killed. And all 3 of them are killed as she saves Brandy Worth's life. And the fact that these 3 kids were not made by Brandy Worth, they're very jealous that they need Brandy Worth, and she's the ultimate goal of what those 3 kids needed to be. But it turned out to be that they were not Adam Eve. So they go back, they get captured, Eve and Brandy Worth, by Erickson. And this is where we get the huge twist, because the 3 kids kept calling her their sister and their sibling. And it didn't really make a lot of sense to me when they were saying it. And then it really made sense that the 3 kids were still the offspring of Eve's mom, and they kept her alive enough where they could use her offspring to make these 3 kids. It was a great twist, I think, that they had into the show. Brandy Worth gets killed by Erickson in a fight, and then Eve kind of goes off on him, and then kind of just calms down and goes back home. It was her day of her birthday as well, and she shows up late. The dad and mom are both very mad at her, and she changes the picture of her family, which was her and her. Now she learns her step parents, and she, with her powers, changed the picture to really what her true family turned out to be, which is obviously the 3 kids who were used by the government, and Brandyworth. Those were her family, her true family. And actually, she's now going to hide the picture from her parents. But I thought it was a deeply emotional episode. Great animation, awesome, like 20-minute action scene. Again, it's a violent show, and I love how violent the show always is. But it's a personal episode, and Eve became a very much relatable character, even more so than when we got out of her in season 1. So now I'm very excited to see what we do with her moving forward in season 2, what this has set the stage for. Again, this took place when she was 12 years old. We also end the show with of course, a mid-credit scene, as we always do with Invincible. And in this episode, it was what was Mark Grayson doing during the events of what they show in this Adam Eve special episode. And it was just because we see Omni-Man helping out the Guardians of the Globe in the opening scene, which is still so hard to watch now because of, you know what happens with Omni-Man killing the Guardians of the Globe in episode 1 and what he turns into at the end of season 1. But we have Mark, Debbie, and Nolan, and we get Mark being like duct tape man, all those things, and it's a happy family, but you get to definitely get to see Nolan being grateful that Mark doesn't have his powers at that point, because we know what happens when he learns Mark has powers. So I thought this was a fantastic episode. I think it was absolutely a necessity, I do think, moving forward, especially with the amount they'll probably have to use of Adam Eve moving forward. She's a fantastic character, so many different levels, a family being an issue, friends being an issue, being a lonely person, but all these things are real people issues with or without superpowers. So I really did love this episode. What are your thoughts on the Adam Eve special episode here of Invincible? Season 2 will be coming out November 3rd, where I'll be dropping my spoiler reviews week to week of the new episodes of Invincible. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys.